Good evening, friends. Tonight, we'll drift into a slow and gentle journey through Norse myths and the ancient wisdom of the world tree. Dim your lights, settle under your blanket, let the noise of the day fade away, and if this calm journey helps you relax, feel free to tap like and subscribe, only if it feels right. Picture yourself stepping into a world where trees stretch beyond the heavens, where roots drink from sacred wells, and where the very fabric of reality rests in branches that sway with cosmic winds. Tonight you'll discover the secrets of Yggdrasil, the mighty ash tree that holds all existence together like a gentle giant cradling the universe in its arms. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is in your city right now. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world, whether you're watching under the midnight stars or during a quiet afternoon break. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's begin. Close your eyes, and imagine the most magnificent tree you've ever seen. Now make it bigger, bigger still. Keep going until it fills your entire vision, until its trunk stretches wider than a city block, until its roots disappear into depths you cannot fathom. This is Yggdrasil, and you're about to discover something quite wonderful about how it stays alive. You know how the small oak tree in your backyard needs water, how its roots spread quietly underground, seeking moisture in the dark soil. Yggdrasil works the same way, except everything about this tree exists on a scale that would make your neighborhood oak feel rather modest. The world tree's roots don't just search for any ordinary water. No, they've found something far more interesting. Picture yourself shrinking down, becoming small enough to follow these roots on their journey deep beneath the earth. The first root you encounter feels smooth and ancient under your tiny hands as you slide along its surface. It's heading somewhere with great purpose, though it moves with the patience that only trees understand. Where is it going? Well, that's what makes this first part of our journey so quietly fascinating. This root travels through layers of soil that have been undisturbed since the world began. You pass by sleeping earthworms the size of subway trains and stones that remember when the mountains were young. The root knows exactly where it's going, following a path it has taken every day for countless ages. And finally, you arrive at the first sacred well. The Well of Erd sits here in the darkness, glowing with a gentle light that seems to come from the water itself. This isn't ordinary well water. This is the water of fate and time, where the past, present, and future all swirl together in patterns that would make your head spin if you looked too closely. But you don't need to understand it completely. You just need to watch as Yggdrasil's root dips into this sacred water like a giant straw, drinking deeply of destiny itself. What does the water of fate taste like to a tree? Perhaps it tastes like every moment that has ever been, and every moment that ever will be, all mixed together in a flavor that only something as old and wise as Yggdrasil could truly appreciate. The tree drinks slowly, savoring each drop, letting the liquid wisdom flow up through its massive root system. But wait, there's another root heading in a completely different direction. You decide to follow this one too, curious about where else this incredible tree might be getting its nourishment. This second root feels different under your hands, somehow cooler and more mysterious. It leads you through caverns where ancient crystals hum with forgotten songs and past underground rivers that have never seen sunlight. You arrive at the Well of Mimir, hidden away in a chamber that feels like nature's own secret library. This well contains the water of wisdom and memory. Every important thought that has ever been thought, every piece of knowledge that has ever been discovered, every wise decision, and every lesson learned from foolish mistakes. It all flows in these dark, still waters. Yggdrasil's second root drinks here too, absorbing wisdom like a sponge absorbs spilled milk. Can you imagine what it would be like to drink liquid knowledge? The tree seems to shiver slightly as this wisdom flows upward, as if each sip teaches it something new about how to hold the 9 worlds in perfect balance. The root drinks carefully here, because wisdom is potent stuff, and even a tree as mighty as Yggdrasil needs to pace itself when consuming pure understanding. Now you notice a third root, this one heading toward what feels like a completely different realm altogether. This route moves with more urgency than the others, and as you follow it you begin to understand why. You're heading toward Jotunheim, the land of the frost giants, where everything is bigger, colder, and a bit more dangerous than in other places. Here you find the third sacred well, the Well of Hvergelmir, bubbling and steaming in a landscape of ice and stone. This is where all the rivers of the world begin, where the first waters of creation still spring from deep within the earth. The water here doesn't just contain fate or wisdom, it contains the raw power of life itself. the fundamental energy that keeps everything in existence moving and growing and changing. Yggdrasil's third root drinks here, with obvious relief, like a person finally getting a cool glass of water after a long day in the sun. This is the tree's main source of strength, the well that provides the pure energy needed to support entire worlds in its branches. The water bubbles up enthusiastically, as if it's happy to help nourish something as important as the world tree. You watch in fascination as all three types of water, fate, wisdom, and life energy, flow up through Yggdrasil's root system, like three different types of nutrition, flowing through an incredibly complex circulation system. The tree seems to glow slightly brighter with each drink, its bark becoming more vibrant, its leaves rustling with satisfaction high above in branches you cannot see from down here. But here's something particularly interesting that you might not have expected. The tree doesn't just take from these wells, no, Yggdrasil gives back too. As its roots drink, they also release something into each well, tiny drops of morning dew that have collected on the tree's leaves, mixed with particles of starlight that have settled on its bark during long nights. This exchange creates a gentle cycle that has been going on since the beginning of time. The wells nourish the tree, and the tree enriches the wells, creating a perfect balance that keeps both the world tree and the sacred waters healthy and strong. It's like the most important recycling program in the universe, operating quietly and efficiently without anyone needing to manage it or worry about it. As you make your way back up through the root system, following the flow of sacred waters upward toward the trunk, you begin to understand something profound about how the universe takes care of itself. Everything is connected. The tree needs the wells, and the wells need the tree. Fate, wisdom, and life force all work together to keep existence itself running smoothly. You emerge from the underground journey and find yourself standing at the base of Yggdrasil's enormous trunk, looking up into branches that disappear into clouds and starlight. Somewhere high above, you can hear the gentle rustling of leaves that have been nourished by the three sacred wells. The tree feels solid and eternal beneath your hand, vibrating slightly with the constant flow of fate, wisdom, and life energy moving through its ancient wood. Standing here, you realize that you've just witnessed one of the universe's most fundamental processes, how the world tree sustains itself, and in doing so, sustains everything else. It's not dramatic or flashy, it's simply quiet, consistent, and absolutely essential. Just like breathing, or the beating of a heart, or the patient way that trees in your own world grow one ring at a time, year after year. The three wells continue their ancient work in the darkness below, and Yggdrasil continues its gentle drinking, maintaining the perfect balance that keeps all the world stable and secure. It's a process that will continue long after tonight's story ends, long after you drift off to sleep, carrying on with the same quiet reliability that has made this tree the backbone of existence itself. But as you stand here in the peaceful shadow of the world tree, listening to the subtle sounds of cosmic waters flowing through ancient roots, you might find yourself wondering about the other residents of this magnificent tree. After all, something this large and important surely doesn't stand empty and quiet all the time, does it? Now that you understand how Yggdrasil drinks from its three sacred wells, you might be curious about who else calls this cosmic tree home. After all, even the ordinary trees in your neighborhood host birds, squirrels, and countless insects. Imagine how many creatures might choose to live in a tree that stretches across multiple worlds and has room enough in its branches to hold entire realms of existence. Let's start your tour with the most famous resident of Yggdrasil, a squirrel whose daily routine might seem familiar to anyone who's ever watched the busy squirrels in a local park. His name is Ratatoskra, and he has what you might call the most interesting job in all the 9 worlds. Every single day, without fail, he runs up and down the entire length of the world tree, carrying messages between the creatures who live at the very top and the very bottom. Picture Ratatoskra for a moment. He's not much different from the squirrels you've seen scampering around tree trunks in your own yard, except perhaps a bit larger, and definitely more talkative. His fur is the color of autumn leaves, russet and gold and brown all mixed together, and his tail is magnificently fluffy, perfect for helping him balance during his long daily climbs. His eyes sparkle with the kind of mischief that suggests he enjoys his work a little too much. What makes Ratatoskra's job so interesting is that he doesn't just deliver messages. Oh no, that would be far too simple and straightforward for a squirrel with his personality. Instead, he takes great pleasure in adding his own creative interpretations to every message he carries. If the eagle at the top of the tree says something mildly critical about the serpent at the bottom, Ratatoskra makes sure that by the time the message reaches its destination, It sounds much more insulting than it originally was. You might wonder why he does this. Well, like many squirrels, Ratatoska seems to find life more entertaining when there's a bit of drama involved. He's not malicious, exactly. He's just enthusiastic about making sure that every conversation stays lively and interesting. It's a trait that keeps the world tree from becoming too quiet and peaceful, which might actually be rather boring for a squirrel with so much energy. Every morning, Ratatoska begins his daily run at the base of Yggdrasil, where he might pause to listen to the conversations of various gods and mythical beings who gather there to discuss important matters. His ears are remarkably good at picking up whispered comments and casual observations that others might miss. Then, with his cheeks full of newly collected gossip and his mind already working on how to make each piece of news more dramatic, he begins his long journey upward. The climb to the top of Yggdrasil is no small feat, even for a squirrel. The trunk is so massive that Ratatoska often stops for brief rests on the various branches that hold entire worlds. Sometimes he pauses in Alfheim to chat with the Light Elves about their latest projects, or takes a quick detour through Midgard to see what interesting things the humans are up to. These little stops give him even more material to work with when he's crafting his messages. At the very crown of Yggdrasil lives an enormous eagle whose wingspan is so vast that when he spreads his wings, the movement creates winds that blow across multiple worlds. This eagle has no name that anyone speaks aloud, but his presence at the top of the tree is as constant and reliable as sunrise. He perches there with the dignity that comes from having the best view in all of existence, surveying everything below with the careful attention of someone who takes his responsibilities seriously. The eagle's feathers shimmer with colors that shift depending on the light, sometimes appearing deep brown like rich earth, other times flashing with hints of gold like captured sunlight. His eyes are the pale yellow of winter ice, and they miss nothing that happens in any of the 9 worlds spread out below him. When he speaks, his voice carries the authority of wind and storm, though he chooses his words carefully and rarely says more than necessary. Between the eagle's eyes sits another bird, a hawk named Vedafölnir, whose job is to help the great eagle keep watch over everything. Vedafölnir is smaller and quicker than his majestic host, able to dart between the worlds with the speed of thought, gathering information about weather patterns, political developments, and other events that might require the eagle's attention. Together, they form a surveillance system that would make any modern security network look rather simple by comparison. When Ratatoska finally reaches the top of the tree after his long climb, he greets the eagle with elaborate politeness before delivering whatever messages he's collected from below. The eagle listens patiently, though his expression often suggests that he's well aware of how much creative embellishment Ratatoska has added to the original communications. Sometimes the eagle's response is nothing more than a gentle correction of the facts, but other times he plays along with the squirrel's dramatic interpretations, perhaps understanding that a little entertainment helps break up the serious business of watching over the universe. After receiving the eagle's response, Ratatoska begins his journey back down the tree, his mind already working on how to present this new information in the most interesting possible way. The trip down is usually faster than the climb up, because gravity helps and because he's eager to see how his carefully crafted messages will be received at the bottom of the tree. At the base of Yggdrasil, coiled among the massive roots that you learnt about in our previous story, lives the dragon Nidhogg. This ancient serpent spends his days gnawing on the roots of the world tree, not out of malice, but because it's simply his nature and his job in the grand scheme of things. His scales are dark as midnight, with an oily shimmer that reflects no light, and his eyes glow like distant red stars in the darkness beneath the earth. Nidhogg represents the force of decay and renewal that keeps the universe in balance. By constantly chewing on Yggdrasil's roots, he ensures that the tree must continually grow and regenerate itself, staying strong and healthy, rather than becoming stagnant. It's a bit like how forest fires, despite seeming destructive, actually help forests stay vibrant by clearing away old growth and making room for new life. When Ratatoska arrives with messages from the eagle above, Nidhogg usually listens with the patient attention of someone who has heard countless similar messages over the millennia. The dragon's response is typically measured and thoughtful, showing none of the impulsiveness that characterizes the squirrel's communication style. This contrast in personalities is part of what makes their daily interactions so entertaining for Ratatoska, who delights in trying to provoke stronger reactions from the ancient serpent. But Nidhogg is not the only serpent living in Yggdrasil's root system. The area beneath the world tree is home to numerous other dragons and serpents, each with their own personality and role to play in maintaining the cosmic balance. Some are smaller and more active than Nidhogg, darting between the roots like underground lightning. Others are larger and more contemplative, spending years at a time in deep meditation about the mysteries of existence. These various serpents often gather to discuss philosophical questions that would challenge even the wisest scholars. They debate the nature of time, the meaning of fate, and the proper balance between creation and destruction, all while methodically performing their important work of keeping the tree's root system properly maintained through their careful gnawing and polishing activities. Meanwhile, throughout the middle sections of Yggdrasil's trunk and branches, countless other creatures make their homes. There are deer who graze on the tree's leaves, their movements so graceful they seem to dance as they leap from branch to branch across impossible distances. These deer have names like Dan, Darvalin, Dunair, and Durarashor, and their grazing helps keep the tree's foliage properly trimmed and healthy. The deer move with a serenity that comes from living in perfect harmony with their environment. They understand instinctively which leaves are ready to be eaten, and which should be left to continue growing. Their presence adds a gentle pastoral quality to the cosmic tree, reminding visitors that even something as grand and important as Yggdrasil serves as home to creatures who simply want to live quiet, peaceful lives. As evening approaches each day, all of these residents of Yggdrasil settle into their respective resting places. Ratatoska finds a comfortable hollow in the bark where he can curl up with his fluffy tail wrapped around him like a blanket. The great eagle tucks his massive head under one wing while keeping one eye slightly open, maintaining his vigilant watch even while resting. The deer gather in small groups on the broader branches, lying down together for warmth and companionship. Deep below, Nidhogg and the other serpents continue their work with the patient persistence that characterizes their kind, their activities creating a subtle, rhythmic sound that serves as a lullaby for the entire tree. It's a sound like distant ocean waves, or like the slow, steady breathing of some enormous sleeping creature. All of these residents, from the smallest serpent to the greatest eagle, work together to keep Yggdrasil alive and healthy. They represent the truth that even the most cosmic and important places in the universe are really just neighborhoods where different types of beings live together, each contributing something essential to the whole community. As you imagine yourself settling down for the night somewhere in this vast tree, perhaps in a cozy nook between two roots where you can listen to the gentle sounds of all these creatures going about their evening routines, you might find yourself wondering about the other visitors who come to Yggdrasil. After all, if this tree is truly the center of all existence, surely it must attract some very important guests from time to time. Just as you've discovered the busy community of creatures living within Yggdrasil itself, you might be curious about who comes to visit this cosmic tree. After all, when something serves as the center of all existence, it naturally becomes a gathering place for those who have important decisions to make and serious matters to discuss. Every day, as reliable as sunrise, the gods make their way to Yggdrasil for their daily meeting. This isn't a rushed, modern-style conference with people checking their phones and hurrying off to other appointments. No, this is the kind of slow, deliberate gathering that happens when immortal beings have important work to do and all the time in the world to do it properly. Picture the scene as the gods begin to arrive each morning. They don't hurry or rush, because what would be the point? When you're going to live forever, you learn to appreciate the journey as much as the destination. They walk at a comfortable pace along ancient paths that wind through landscapes of impossible beauty, taking time to notice how the morning light falls across distant mountains, or how the dew sparkles on meadow flowers that bloom in colors your world has never seen. Odin usually arrives first, not because he's in any particular hurry, but because he tends to wake early and enjoys having a few quiet moments alone with the tree before the others join him. He might spend this time simply standing with one hand against Yggdrasil's massive trunk, feeling the slow, steady pulse of cosmic energy flowing through the ancient wood. Sometimes he walks slowly around the base of the tree, examining the roots with the careful attention of someone who understands that the foundation of everything deserves regular inspection. The All-Father moves with the measured pace of someone who has learned that wisdom often comes from observation rather than action. His two ravens, Hugin and Munin, Thought and Memory, perch nearby on lower branches of the great tree, preening their feathers and occasionally offering quiet observations about things they've noticed during their daily flights across the 9 worlds. Their presence adds to the contemplative atmosphere, like having very intelligent, well-traveled companions who prefer listening to talking. Thor arrives with somewhat more energy, his footsteps creating tiny earthquakes that make the tree's leaves rustle high above, though Yggdrasil itself remains perfectly steady. The Thunder God has never learned to walk quietly, and frankly, he's never seen much point in trying. His hammer, Mjolnir, swings from his belt with each step, occasionally bumping against his leg with a sound like distant thunder rolling across summer mountains. Despite his reputation for quick action and decisive solutions, Thor at these morning gatherings shows a different side of his personality. Here, surrounded by the peaceful atmosphere of the World Tree, he becomes thoughtful and careful, understanding that this is a place for discussion rather than immediate action. He often spends time before the official meeting begins examining the various creatures living in and around the tree, showing particular interest in how they all manage to coexist so peacefully. Frigg arrives with the quiet grace that comes from being the queen of the gods and the keeper of domestic harmony in Asgard. She has a way of noticing things that others miss: which flowers are blooming around the tree's base, how the light changes as it filters down through the enormous canopy above, whether any of the deer grazing on the higher branches seem to need attention or care. Her presence brings a sense of stability and nurturing that helps set the tone for productive discussions. Balder comes to these meetings with the kind of radiant good cheer that makes everyone feel slightly happier just by being around him. He has a gift for finding something positive to say about even the most challenging situations, and his gentle humor often helps diffuse tensions before they can grow into serious disagreements. The light seems to grow a little brighter when he arrives, and the various creatures living in the tree often gather on nearby branches to listen to his cheerful observations about the day. If you're finding these gentle tales of the World Tree soothing, consider subscribing for more peaceful journeys through Norse mythology. Your support helps us create these calm escapes from the busy world. Tyr approaches with the steady, reliable gait of someone who takes his responsibilities seriously but never feels burdened by them. As the god of justice and law, he brings a sense of fairness and balance to every discussion. He has a way of asking the right questions at the right moments, helping the group work through complex problems by examining them from all possible angles. His missing hand, sacrificed to bind the wolf Fenrir, serves as a quiet reminder that sometimes doing the right thing requires personal sacrifice. Heimdall arrives from his post at the Rainbow Bridge, bringing news and observations from his constant watch over the Nine Worlds. His incredibly keen senses allow him to notice patterns and changes that others might miss entirely, making his contributions to the daily discussions invaluable for understanding how various decisions might affect different realms. He speaks quietly but with great precision, choosing his words carefully and never wasting anyone's time with unnecessary details. The goddess Freyja joins the group with an elegance that somehow manages to be both regal and approachable. She brings wisdom about matters of the heart and insights into the motivations that drive both gods and mortals to make the choices they do. Her perspective often helps the group understand the emotional and personal dimensions of seemingly straightforward political or practical problems. Once everyone has arrived and settled into their preferred spots around the base of the great tree, the daily discussion begins. But these aren't the kind of heated debates or urgent crisis meetings you might expect from a gathering of powerful beings responsible for maintaining cosmic order. Instead, these conversations unfold with the patient rhythm of people who understand that good decisions usually require careful thought and thorough consideration. They might spend an hour discussing a problem that has been developing slowly in one of the Nine Worlds, with each god contributing their own observations and insights. Odin might share something his ravens reported during their travels, while Heimdall adds details he noticed from his vantage point at the Rainbow Bridge. Thor offers his perspective on how the situation might affect ordinary people going about their daily lives, while Frigg considers the long-term implications for families and communities. The gods don't rush to judgment or leap to immediate action. Instead, they explore each issue from multiple angles, considering not just what needs to be done, but how it should be done, when it should be done, and what unintended consequences might result from different approaches. It's the kind of thorough, thoughtful decision-making process that's only possible when you have both the wisdom that comes from vast experience and the luxury of time to think things through properly. Sometimes their discussions are interrupted by Ratatoskr, scampering down from his daily message-running duties, eager to share the latest gossip he's collected from various parts of the tree. The gods listen to his dramatically embellished reports with patient amusement, understanding that even his exaggerations often contain useful nuggets of information about what's happening in different parts of their realm. As the morning progresses, the conversation often turns to more philosophical questions about the nature of fate, the balance between order and chaos, and the responsibilities that come with great power. These discussions can continue for hours, with each god contributing insights drawn from their own areas of expertise and personal experience. The atmosphere remains relaxed and collegial, more like a gathering of old friends working through shared problems than a formal government meeting. The presence of Yggdrasil itself seems to have a calming influence on these discussions. The steady, ancient energy of the world tree reminds everyone present that they are part of something much larger and longer lasting than any individual problem or crisis. The tree has stood here since the beginning of time and will continue standing long after today's concerns have been resolved, providing a sense of perspective that helps keep even the most serious issues in proper proportion. When the day's formal discussions conclude, the gods don't immediately rush off to their various duties. Instead, they often linger for a while, enjoying each other's company and the peaceful atmosphere around the tree. Some might walk together along the paths that wind between Yggdrasil's enormous roots, continuing their conversations in smaller groups. Others prefer to sit quietly, perhaps watching the deer graze on the tree's lower branches or listening to the subtle sounds of cosmic waters flowing through the root system far below. These informal moments after the official meeting often prove just as valuable as the structured discussions, as gods share personal concerns, offer each other advice and support, or simply enjoy the companionship that comes from working together toward common goals. It's during these quieter times that you can see most clearly that despite their cosmic responsibilities and incredible powers, the gods are fundamentally social beings who value friendship, cooperation, and mutual support. As evening approaches, and the gods begin to make their way back to their various homes and duties, the great tree seems to breathe a gentle sigh of satisfaction, having provided another day of stability and gathering space for those who guide the fate of the 9 worlds. But even as the gods depart, the tree continues its ancient work, and in the depths beneath its roots, other forces continue shaping the destiny of all existence. As the gods make their way home from another day of peaceful deliberation beneath Yggdrasil, you might find yourself drawn to explore more deeply one of those sacred wells you discovered earlier. The Well of Erd, where fate itself flows in waters that shimmer with the light of past, present, and future, holds mysteries that deserve a closer, more careful look. The journey to the Well of Erd requires following one of Yggdrasil's massive roots deep underground, just as you did before. But this time, you're not just observing how the tree drinks from this sacred source. This time, you're going to meet the 3 sisters who tend the well, and in doing so, shape the destiny of everything that exists. As you make your way down through the layers of earth and time, following the root's gentle curve deeper into the foundations of reality, you begin to notice that this particular journey feels different from your previous underground explorations. The very air seems to hum with potential, as if every breath you take contains possibilities that haven't quite decided yet whether to become real or to fade away into the realm of things that might have been. The Well of Erd sits in a chamber that feels both ancient beyond measure and somehow outside of time altogether. The walls curve away into shadows that seem to contain entire lifetimes, and the ceiling arches high above, disappearing into darkness that twinkles occasionally, with what might be stars or might be the gleam of distant memories. In the center of this timeless space, the well itself rises from the floor like a natural spring, surrounded by stones so old they remember when the world was first spoken into existence. The water in the well doesn't behave quite like ordinary water. Instead of staying level and still, it moves in slow, hypnotic patterns that suggest currents flowing in directions that don't quite make sense to anyone who thinks in terms of normal geography. Sometimes the surface shows ripples that seem to be moving backward, flowing from the edges toward the center. Other times the water appears perfectly smooth except for tiny whirlpools that spin with purpose, as if they're stirring together ingredients in some cosmic recipe. Sitting beside the well, working with the quiet concentration of craftspeople who have been perfecting their art for eons, are the 3 Norns, Erd, Verdandi, and Skuld. These sisters tend the Well of Fate with the same patient care that a gardener might show to prize-winning roses, understanding that their work affects every living thing in all the 9 worlds. Erd, whose name means that which was, represents the past and all the countless events that have already become fixed in the pattern of history. She appears as an elderly woman with silver hair that seems to contain strands of starlight, and her hands show the gentle weathering that comes from handling the threads of countless lifetimes. When she moves, she does so with the deliberate grace of someone who never needs to hurry because she understands exactly how much time each task requires. Erd spends her time carefully sorting through memories and completed events, organizing them like a librarian, arranging books on infinite shelves. She takes broken threads of fate, lives that ended, dreams that were fulfilled or abandoned, choices that led to their final conclusions, and weaves them into the solid foundation upon which the present moment can rest securely. Her work ensures that the past remains stable and reliable, providing the firm ground that everyone needs in order to take their next step forward. Verdandi, that which is becoming, embodies the present moment and all the active choices currently being made throughout the 9 worlds. She appears as a woman in the prime of life, with dark hair that moves as if stirred by winds from different times and places. Her eyes sparkle with the intensity of someone who must pay attention to millions of simultaneous events, watching as each decision creates ripples that spread outward to influence countless other decisions. The dandy works with threads that are still warm from the loom of current events, handling situations that are actively unfolding at this very moment. She might be adjusting the fate thread of a farmer in Midgard who is deciding whether to plant barley or oats this spring, while simultaneously influencing the destiny of a frost giant in Jotunheim who is choosing between 2 different paths down a mountain. Her hands move with quick, sure movements, making tiny adjustments that help guide current events toward their most appropriate outcomes. Skuld, that which shall be, represents the future and all the possibilities that haven't yet crystallized into definite reality. She appears as a young woman whose features seem to shift slightly depending on the light, as if she contains within herself all the different ways things might turn out. Her hair flows like liquid silver, and her eyes hold the deep mystery of unwritten stories and dreams not yet dreamed. Skuld's work involves handling the most delicate threads of all, the gossamer strands of pure possibility that may or may not eventually become real events. She sorts through infinite potential futures, gently encouraging some possibilities while allowing others to fade away, always working to maintain the proper balance between choice and consequence, between hope and reality. Her touch is so light that the threads barely know they're being guided, preserving the essential freedom that allows genuine choice to exist. The 3 sisters work together with the kind of perfect coordination that only comes from sharing the same task for countless millennia. They rarely need to speak to each other, communicating instead through subtle glances and small gestures that convey complex information about the intricate patterns they're creating together. When they do speak, their voices harmonize in ways that create overtones containing meanings too deep for ordinary words. Their primary tool is an enormous loom that spans most of the chamber, its frame made from wood taken from Yggdrasil itself during the tree's very first pruning. The loom holds the tapestry of fate, a weaving so complex and beautiful that looking at it directly for too long can leave an observer dizzy with the realization of how interconnected everything truly is. Every thread in this tapestry represents the life path of some living being, and every place where threads cross or interweave shows how different lives influence and affect each other. Erd works at the left side of the loom, weaving completed life stories into the solid foundation of the tapestry. Her threads are strong and stable, colored with the rich hues of finished experiences. Verdandi works in the center, handling the active threads that show what's happening right now throughout all the worlds. These threads shimmer and pulse with immediate life, changing color and texture as current events unfold. Skuld works at the right side, preparing the future threads and gently guiding them into position, so they'll be ready when the present moment catches up to them. But the Norns don't just weave at their loom, they also tend the well of Erd itself, using its sacred waters in their work like painters using different colors from their palette. Each morning they draw fresh water from the well, and use it to nourish the threads of fate, keeping them supple and responsive. The water seems to know exactly which threads need attention, flowing to the right places with minimal guidance from the sisters. Sometimes, when a particularly important decision is being made somewhere in the 9 worlds, all 3 sisters will pause in their individual work to focus together on a single thread. They might spend hours, or even days, carefully considering how to handle the fate of a king making choices that will affect thousands of people, or they might delicately adjust the destiny of a child, whose small action today will have enormous consequences decades in the future. During these collaborative moments, the sisters demonstrate the wisdom that comes from their unique perspectives on time itself. Erd contributes understanding of how current situations developed from past events, helping to ensure that new decisions acknowledge and respect what has come before. Verdandi focuses on the immediate practical implications of different choices, making sure that present-moment realities are properly considered. Skuld offers insights into the long-term consequences of various possibilities, helping to guide decisions toward outcomes that will serve the greater good over time. The work of the Norns requires perfect neutrality and fairness. They don't play favorites or try to protect some beings while disadvantaging others. Instead, they focus on maintaining the overall balance and health of the cosmic pattern, understanding that every individual thread, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, plays an essential role in the larger design. A peasant's thread is handled with the same care as a god's thread, because both are equally important to the integrity of the whole tapestry. If you're enjoying these peaceful explorations of Norse wisdom, Feel free to subscribe for more gentle journeys through ancient myths. Your support helps us continue creating these calming stories for quiet evenings. Visitors to the Well of Erd often feel overwhelmed by the complexity and beauty of what the Norns do, but the sisters themselves work with calm confidence, never seeming stressed or rushed, despite the enormous scope of their responsibilities. They understand that fate is not about forcing predetermined outcomes, but rather about providing the right conditions for appropriate choices to emerge naturally from each situation. As you watch them work, you begin to understand that fate isn't something that happens to people against their will. Instead, it's more like a gentle current that guides willing swimmers toward destinations that serve both their individual growth and the well-being of the whole community. The Norns don't eliminate choice. They create the circumstances within which wise choices become possible and natural. When their daily work is complete, the three sisters often sit together beside their well, sharing quiet conversation about the patterns they've observed and the changes they've noticed in the great tapestry. These discussions help them coordinate their individual efforts and ensure that their work remains aligned with the deeper purposes that guide the universe itself. As evening settles over the chamber, the Well of Erd continues to glow with its soft, eternal light, and the waters continue their mysterious circulation between past, present, and future. The Norns take turns keeping watch through the night, ensuring that the threads of fate remain properly tended, even while most of the Nine Worlds rest. Their vigilance provides the stability that allows everyone else to sleep peacefully, confident that tomorrow will arrive exactly as it should. But even as the Norns work to weave fate itself, other sources of wisdom flow beneath Yggdrasil's roots, offering different types of knowledge to those who seek understanding of the deeper mysteries that shape existence. While the Norns work steadily at their tapestry of fate, weaving the threads that connect all living things across time, another type of knowledge flows in the darkness beneath Yggdrasil's roots. The Well of Mimir holds not the patterns of destiny, but something equally precious and far more difficult to obtain: pure wisdom, distilled from every important lesson that has ever been learned. Finding the Well of Mimir requires following a different route than the one that led you to the Norns, and the journey feels distinctly different from your previous underground explorations. This path winds through chambers lined with crystals that hum with forgotten songs, past underground streams that whisper secrets in languages older than speech, through caverns where the very stones seem to pulse with accumulated knowledge, waiting patiently to be discovered. The Well of Mimir sits in the deepest, most hidden chamber beneath Yggdrasil, a place so remote and secret that even most of the gods have never seen it with their own eyes. The chamber itself feels like a natural library, with walls that curve away into shadows containing what might be shelves of books or might be formations of rock that have learned to hold memories in their crystalline structure. Unlike the Well of Erd, which glows with its own inner light, the Well of Mimir appears as a pool of perfect darkness, so deep and still that looking into it is like gazing into the heart of space itself. The water, if it can properly be called water, seems to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating a surface so dark and smooth it might be made of polished obsidian or liquid starlight. But the well is not abandoned or unguarded. Sitting beside it, as he is since the beginning of time, is Mimir himself, the severed head that somehow continues to live and think and speak with more wisdom than any complete being has ever possessed. His presence transforms what could be a disturbing or frightening encounter into something strangely comforting, like meeting an elderly professor who has spent so many years studying that he has become a living encyclopedia of everything worth knowing. Mimir's eyes remain clear and bright, despite his unusual circumstances, sparkling with the kind of deep intelligence that comes from having unlimited time to think about every important question, without the distractions that usually prevent thorough contemplation. When he speaks, his voice carries the authority of someone who has had eons to consider his words carefully, choosing each phrase with the precision of a master craftsman, selecting exactly the right tool for a delicate task. The story of how Mimir came to be here involves one of those complex political situations that occasionally arise between different groups of gods, the kind of diplomatic crisis that gets resolved through negotiations requiring significant sacrifices from all parties involved. During a particularly delicate exchange of hostages designed to seal a peace treaty, Mimir ended up being beheaded by gods who later realized they had acted hastily and without sufficient wisdom. Odin, recognizing that Mimir's knowledge was too valuable to lose, preserved the severed head using herbs and magic, then brought it to this sacred well where the concentrated wisdom of ages could sustain continued life and thought. Rather than being a punishment or a tragedy, this transformation became Mimir's greatest opportunity to fulfill his true calling as the keeper of cosmic knowledge. Free from the needs and distractions of a physical body, Mimir could devote himself entirely to the accumulation and organization of wisdom. He spent centuries learning to drink from his own well, discovering how to absorb not just information but understanding, not just facts but the deep insights that connect seemingly unrelated ideas into profound truths about the nature of existence itself. The Well of Mimir contains every important realization that has ever dawned in any thinking mind throughout the 9 worlds. Every moment when someone suddenly understood something that had previously puzzled them, every flash of insight that solved a difficult problem, every breakthrough that advanced knowledge or wisdom, all of these precious moments flow eventually into Mimir's dark waters, where they blend together into a concentrated essence of pure understanding. But the well doesn't just passively collect wisdom, like a master distiller refining alcohol, until only the purest essence remains. The well somehow processes and concentrates knowledge, removing the confusion and error that often accompany initial insights, leaving only the clear, reliable understanding that can serve as a foundation for even deeper discoveries. Drinking from the Well of Mimir is not something that can be done casually or without significant cost. The wisdom contained in those dark waters is so potent, so concentrated, that absorbing even a small amount can fundamentally change the way a person thinks and perceives reality. Most beings simply aren't prepared for that kind of transformation, and the well itself seems to understand this, often refusing to offer its gifts to those who seek them for trivial reasons or selfish purposes. The most famous visitor to seek wisdom from Mimir's well was Odin himself, who came here during his long quest to gain the knowledge necessary to guide the gods and protect the 9 worlds from the various threats that would eventually culminate in Ragnarok. Even the All-Father couldn't simply ask for wisdom and expect to receive it without payment. Mimir required a sacrifice that demonstrated genuine commitment to the pursuit of understanding above all other concerns. Odin's sacrifice of his eye, in exchange for a drink from the well, has become one of the most well-known stories in Norse mythology, but the tale is usually told with emphasis on the dramatic moment of sacrifice rather than on the quieter, more profound aspects of what actually transpired in this hidden chamber. The real story unfolds with the slow, careful pace of someone making the most important decision of an eternal life. Picture Odin sitting beside the well for days or perhaps weeks, engaged in deep conversation with Mimir about the nature of wisdom, the responsibilities that come with knowledge, and the ways that true understanding changes the person who possesses it. These weren't negotiations in any ordinary sense, but rather a careful exploration of whether Odin was genuinely prepared for the transformation that would result from drinking the concentrated wisdom of ages. Mimir explained that physical sight, while useful, often distracts from the deeper seeing that comes with true wisdom. The ability to perceive surface appearances can actually interfere with understanding the underlying patterns and connections that reveal how things really work. By sacrificing his eye, Odin would be trading ordinary vision for the kind of insight that sees through illusions to the truth beneath. When Odin finally made his choice and completed the sacrifice, the drink he received from the well wasn't a large quantity of liquid, but rather a single sip of the most concentrated wisdom in existence. The transformation was immediate and permanent, fundamentally altering his perception of everything from the smallest daily decisions to the vast cosmic patterns that would eventually lead to the end and renewal of the world. But Odin's visit wasn't the end of Mimir's story. The wise head continues his work in this hidden chamber, constantly drinking from his own well and growing ever wiser as new insights flow in from throughout the 9 worlds. He serves as a consultant and advisor to anyone genuinely seeking understanding rather than mere information. Though visitors to his well are rare because the journey is difficult and the cost of true wisdom is always higher than most people are prepared to pay. Mimir's daily routine involves more than just sitting beside his well and dispensing wisdom to occasional visitors. He spends much of his time in deep meditation, processing, and integrating the constant flow of new insights that arrive in his waters. Sometimes he engages in long, complex conversations with himself, working through philosophical problems that require years or decades of careful thought to resolve properly. The chamber around the well serves as Mimir's workshop and laboratory for understanding. The walls seem to shift and change, sometimes displaying visual representations of the concepts he's contemplating, other times showing maps or diagrams that illustrate connections between different types of knowledge. It's as if the chamber itself has become an extension of Mimir's mind, a physical space where abstract ideas can be examined and manipulated like tangible objects. Occasionally, Mimir receives visits from Odin, who comes to consult with his old teacher about particularly challenging problems facing the gods. These conversations unfold over hours or days, with Mimir asking probing questions that help Odin think through issues from new angles, offering insights that can only come from having access to the accumulated wisdom of ages. During these visits, the two engage in the kind of deep philosophical discussion that's only possible between minds that have both sacrificed significantly in the pursuit of understanding. They explore questions about the balance between knowledge and action, the relationship between wisdom and responsibility, and the ways that understanding the future should influence decisions made in the present. But Mimir's influence extends far beyond these direct consultations. The wisdom that flows from his well seeps gradually into the water system that nourishes Yggdrasil, meaning that everyone who benefits from the world tree's stability is indirectly receiving the gift of accumulated insight. The tree itself grows wiser over time, its ancient intelligence informed by every important lesson learned throughout the 9 worlds. As you sit in the peaceful darkness beside Mimir's well, listening to the gentle sounds of wisdom flowing like an underground stream through hidden channels, you begin to understand that knowledge and understanding are living things that grow and develop over time. The well doesn't just store static information like a library or database, but rather cultivates insight the way a garden cultivates flowers, providing the right conditions for understanding to bloom and flourish. The conversation with Mimir, when it comes, unfolds with the unhurried pace of someone who has learned that the most important insights often emerge from the spaces between words, from the quiet moments when ideas are allowed to settle and connect with other concepts in unexpected ways. His questions are designed not to test your knowledge, but to help you discover what you already understand without realizing it. As your visit to the Well of Mimir draws to a close, you realize that the wisdom you've gained here isn't something you can carry away like a souvenir or a tool. Instead, it has become part of how you see and think, a subtle shift in perspective that will influence every future observation and decision. The Well's gift isn't additional information, but rather a clearer way of understanding the information you already possess. Leaving the chamber feels like waking from a profound dream, carrying with you insights that are difficult to put into words but impossible to forget. But even as you make your way back toward the surface, following Yggdrasil's root system through layers of earth and time, you can't help but notice other sounds echoing through the underground spaces, reminders that not all the forces at work beneath the world tree are as gentle and contemplative as wisdom itself. As you emerge from the profound quiet of Mimir's chamber, your mind still processing the subtle wisdom you've encountered there, the underground realm beneath Yggdrasil gradually fills with different sounds. Where the Well of Mimir existed in perfect contemplative silence, broken only by the gentle whisper of accumulated knowledge, you now become aware of something far more active and dynamic echoing through the root system of the world tree. The sound begins as a distant rumble, so low and deep that you feel it in your bones before you actually hear it with your ears. It's the kind of sound that massive machinery might make if it were built from living materials and powered by primal forces older than civilization. But as you follow Yggdrasil's roots toward the source of this rhythmic thundering, you realize that what you're hearing isn't mechanical at all. It's organic, vital, and absolutely essential to the cosmic balance that keeps all 9 worlds stable and secure. You're approaching the domain of Nidhogg, the great serpent who spends his days methodically gnawing on the roots of Yggdrasil with the patient persistence of someone engaged in the most important work in the universe. But before you meet this famous dragon face to face, it's worth taking a moment to understand exactly what he's doing down here in the deepest foundations of existence, and why his seemingly destructive behavior is actually one of the forces that keeps the world tree healthy and strong. The journey to Nidhogg's territory takes you deeper underground than you've ventured before, following roots that grow thicker and more ancient as they approach their junction with the tree's main trunk. The chambers through which these massive roots pass show clear evidence of the dragon's presence, walls worn smooth by the passage of an enormous serpentine body, claw marks carved deep into stone that has been harder than diamond since the world began, and everywhere the lingering scent of something wild and powerful and completely undomesticated. But these aren't signs of random destruction or mindless vandalism. Instead, they show the careful, methodical work of a creature who understands exactly what he's doing and why it needs to be done. The claw marks follow precise patterns that seem designed to improve the flow of nutrients and energy through the root system. The worn walls create smoother channels for the sacred waters that nourish the tree. Even the most dramatic evidence of Nidhogg's presence serves a purpose in maintaining the complex biological and magical systems that keep Yggdrasil functioning properly. The dragon's roar, when you finally hear it clearly, contains layers of meaning that go far beyond simple animal communication. There's music in that sound, deep, resonant harmonics that seem to vibrate in tune with the fundamental frequencies that hold the universe together. It's the sound of someone who has found his perfect calling and pursues it with the kind of satisfaction that comes from doing work that genuinely matters. Nidhogg himself, when you finally encounter him in the vast chamber where Yggdrasil's major roots converge, proves to be far more magnificent and far less threatening than the stories about him might suggest. His scales shimmer with dark iridescence like oil on deep water, reflecting no light but somehow creating the impression of depth and movement that draws the eye and holds it. His size is genuinely impressive, long enough to coil around city blocks, thick enough that his smallest movement creates gentle earthquakes, but he moves with the careful precision of someone who is always mindful of his impact on his surroundings. The dragon's eyes glow with an intelligence that suggests he's been thinking about cosmic mysteries for millennia, and has reached conclusions that would fascinate philosophers, but might be difficult for others to understand. When he pauses in his work to acknowledge your presence, his gaze feels neither hostile nor particularly friendly, but rather curious in the way that a dedicated scholar might regard an unexpected visitor to his laboratory. Nidhogg's daily routine revolves around his careful, systematic gnawing on Yggdrasil's roots, but watching him work reveals immediately that this isn't random destruction or mindless feeding. Instead, the dragon approaches his task with the methodical attention of a master gardener pruning prize roses, understanding exactly which parts of each root need attention and how much work should be done before moving on to the next section. His teeth, when he applies them to the massive roots, don't tear or rip the living wood. Instead, they slice through it with surgical precision, removing only the portions that have grown old and stiff, clearing away dead or dying material that would otherwise interfere with the tree's circulation systems. It's delicate work that requires both enormous strength and perfect control, the kind of task that could only be performed by someone with Nidhogg's unique combination of size, intelligence, and experience. Each section of root that the dragon removes is carefully examined before being either discarded or set aside for some purpose that isn't immediately obvious to casual observers. Some pieces seem to be sorted according to their age, others according to their density or the particular type of magical energy they contain. The dragon's collection and sorting activities suggest that he's not just maintaining the tree, but also harvesting specific materials for projects that extend far beyond simple root management. The chamber where Nidhogg works shows evidence of having been carefully organized over countless years. Piles of sorted root materials occupy designated areas, arranged with the kind of systematic precision that suggests they're ingredients in some vast, slow-moving process that operates on cosmic timescales. Channels carved into the chamber floor direct the flow of various underground streams, ensuring that water and nutrients continue moving efficiently through the root system, despite the dragon's ongoing modifications. But Nidhogg doesn't work alone in his underground domain. The chamber hosts a community of smaller serpents and dragons, each specializing in particular aspects of root system maintenance. Some focus on polishing and smoothing the surfaces, where the great dragon has completed his major work. Others specialize in fine detail work, using their smaller size and more delicate tools to perform precision adjustments that even Nidhogg's careful techniques can't accomplish. These smaller dragons work with obvious respect for their enormous colleague, but the relationship seems to be more collegial than hierarchical. They consult with each other about technical problems, share observations about changes they've noticed in different parts of the root system, and coordinate their efforts to ensure that all the necessary work gets completed efficiently without duplication of effort or conflicts over workspace. The atmosphere in Nidhogg's domain feels surprisingly peaceful, despite the constant sound of gnawing, scraping, and the occasional earth-shaking movement of the great dragon's coils. There's a sense of purposeful activity, of important work being done by beings who understand their role in maintaining something much larger than themselves. The constant low-level noise creates a kind of rhythmic background that becomes oddly soothing once you adjust to it, like the sound of ocean waves or steady rainfall. Occasionally, Nidhogg pauses in his work to engage in what appears to be philosophical discussion with his smaller colleagues. These conversations, conducted in the deep, resonant tones that all dragons seem to prefer, touch on subjects ranging from the metaphysical implications of their work to practical observations about changes they've noticed in the tree's health over recent centuries. The dragon's perspective on time differs significantly from that of shorter-lived beings. They discuss events that happened thousands of years ago as if they occurred last week, while referring to planned projects that won't be completed for several more millennia, as immediate priorities requiring careful attention. This long-term viewpoint, allows them to work with a patience and thoroughness that would be impossible for creatures who felt pressure to see quick results from their efforts. During one of these conversations that you're privileged to overhear, Nidhogg explains his understanding of the role that destruction plays in the cosmic order. He describes how removing old, stiff root material allows the tree to grow new, more flexible roots that can better adapt to changing conditions throughout the 9 worlds. The dragon sees his work not as destruction but as renovation, constantly updating and improving the world tree's infrastructure to ensure it remains capable of supporting the ever-increasing complexity of existence itself. The great serpent also discusses the relationship between his work and that of other forces maintaining cosmic balance. He speaks knowledgeably about the Norns' weaving of fate, understanding how his modifications to the tree's root system can influence the flow of destiny itself. He shows awareness of the wisdom flowing from Mimi as well, and how changes in the tree's structure can affect the distribution of knowledge throughout the 9 worlds. As you listen to these deep, thoughtful conversations, you begin to realize that Nidhogg and his colleagues represent one of the most sophisticated understanding of systems maintenance in existence. They don't just fix problems when they occur, they anticipate future needs and prepare the world tree's infrastructure to handle challenges that may not emerge for centuries or millennia to come. The dragon's roar, which continues periodically throughout your visit, begins to reveal additional layers of meaning as you spend more time in his presence. Sometimes it seems to be a form of communication with other dragons working in distant parts of the root system, coordinating activities across vast underground distances. Other times it appears to be directed at the tree itself, a form of encouragement or acknowledgement that helps maintain the mystical connection between Nidhogg and the living wood he tends so carefully. But perhaps most intriguingly, some of the dragon's roars seem intended for listeners in the upper reaches of Yggdrasil, messages sent upward through the tree's structure to inform the gods, the various tree-dwelling creatures, and perhaps the tree's own consciousness about the status of foundation-level maintenance work. It's a form of cosmic communication that operates on frequencies too low for most beings to consciously perceive, but that nonetheless helps coordinate the activities of all those working to maintain universal stability. As your visit to Nidhogg's domain draws to a close, and you prepare to journey back toward the upper reaches of Yggdrasil, the great dragon offers what might be considered a blessing, or perhaps simply a professional assessment. His ancient eyes study you carefully, and his deep voice rumbles with something that might be approval, as he acknowledges your interest in understanding the less visible aspects of how the universe maintains itself. The journey back up through the root system feels different now, informed by your new understanding of the constant maintenance work happening in the depths below. Every smooth surface, every efficiently flowing channel, every perfectly balanced junction between different roots represents the careful attention of dragons who have dedicated themselves to keeping the world tree healthy and strong. But as you climb higher, approaching the surface layers where Yggdrasil's trunk rises into the light, you become aware that the tree's support systems extend not just downward into hidden wells and dragon-tended roots, but upward as well, connecting to structures that span the vast distances between different realms of existence. Emerging from the profound depths where Nidhogg and his fellow dragons maintain the foundation systems of existence, you find yourself drawn upward through Yggdrasil's massive trunk toward the branches that stretch into the realm of light and sky. The contrast couldn't be more striking, where the underground chambers thrummed with the deep, earth-shaking sounds of cosmic maintenance work. The higher reaches of the world tree shimmer with entirely different energies, painted in colors that seem to dance between the visible and the magical. As you climb higher into the tree's canopy, following pathways carved into the bark by countless ages of careful use, the first thing you notice is how the light begins to change. What started as the gentle, eternal glow that emanates from the tree itself gradually mingles with something more dynamic and colorful, something that shifts and flows like aurora light trapped in crystalline form. You're approaching one of the most famous and beautiful structures in all the 9 worlds, Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that connects Asgard to the other realms. But Bifrost isn't just a bridge that happens to be located near Yggdrasil. The 2 cosmic structures are intimately connected, each one depending on the other for stability and proper function. The rainbow bridge anchors to one of Yggdrasil's strongest branches, using the world tree's deep root system and cosmic stability as the foundation that allows it to span the vast distances between different realms of existence. The branch that supports Bifrost is unlike any of the others you might observe on the world tree, where most of Yggdrasil's branches grow with the organic irregularity you'd expect from any living tree. This particular branch has been shaped by eons of interaction with rainbow light into something that seems part natural growth and part architectural marvel. Its surface gleams with a subtle iridescence that hints at the magical energies flowing through its structure, and its dimensions seem perfectly calculated to provide the precise combination of strength and flexibility needed to anchor a bridge spanning multiple worlds. Bifrost itself appears first as a shimmer in the distance, like heat waves rising from summer pavement, but as you climb closer, it resolves into bands of color so pure and intense. They seem to have been distilled from the very concept of light itself. The bridge doesn't simply display the colors of an ordinary rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, but rather shows hues that have no names in any mortal language, colors that exist only in the spaces between thoughts, in the moments between heartbeats, in the pause between one musical note and the next. The construction of Bifrost represents one of the most sophisticated engineering achievements in cosmic history, though it was built using principles that have more to do with music and poetry than with conventional architecture. Each color band in the bridge vibrates at a specific frequency that corresponds to the essential nature of one of the 9 worlds, creating a harmonic structure that allows safe passage between realms that would otherwise be completely incompatible with each other. Standing at the point where the Rainbow Bridge meets Yggdrasil's branch, you can observe Heimdall at his eternal post, maintaining the constant vigilance that keeps all the 9 worlds safe from threats that might attempt to use Bifrost for invasion or mischief. But Heimdall's role involves far more than simple guard duty. He serves as the bridge's primary maintenance technician, constantly monitoring the delicate balance of forces that keeps the rainbow structure stable and functional. Heimdall's senses, famously acute enough to hear grass growing and see for hundreds of miles, aren't just naturally occurring abilities, but rather specialized tools that have been carefully developed for his bridge-keeping responsibilities. His extraordinary hearing allows him to detect changes in the harmonic frequencies that maintain Bifrost's structural integrity, while his remarkable vision lets him monitor conditions in all the realms connected by the Rainbow Bridge. The Guardian's daily routine involves a complex series of observations and adjustments that ensure the bridge remains properly calibrated for safe travel. Each morning, he conducts a systematic inspection of every color band, listening for any changes in their characteristic frequencies, watching for signs of stress or fatigue that might indicate the need for maintenance. His work requires the kind of precise attention to detail that might be expected from someone tuning a cosmic musical instrument. But Heimdall doesn't work alone in maintaining Bifrost. The Rainbow Bridge draws its power from the same cosmic energies that nourish Yggdrasil, creating a symbiotic relationship between the tree and the bridge that benefits both structures. The World Tree provides stability and grounding for the rainbow's vast span, while Bifrost channels light and energy from multiple worlds back into Yggdrasil's branch system, helping to nourish the tree's upper reaches. This energy exchange creates some of the most beautiful visual effects you might ever witness. Where Bifrost connects to Yggdrasil's branch, the tree's bark takes on some of the bridge's iridescent qualities, glowing with gentle rainbow light that flows slowly through the wood like luminous sap. The effect spreads gradually through adjacent branches, creating a network of softly glowing pathways that help guide travelers through the tree's more complex upper regions. The rainbow light doesn't just provide illumination, it also serves as a communication system that allows different parts of the tree to coordinate their activities. Changes in color intensity or frequency can convey information about weather conditions in different worlds, about the movement of significant beings across the bridge, or about adjustments needed in various parts of the tree's support systems. From your vantage point near the bridge's anchor point, you can observe the steady flow of traffic that uses Bifrost for travel between the worlds. The gods pass regularly, moving with the unhurried dignity that comes from having important work to do, but unlimited time in which to accomplish it. Their footsteps on the rainbow surface create subtle changes in the bridge's coloration, like ripples spreading across water, each traveler's passage adding their own unique harmonic contribution to the bridge's overall song. But the gods aren't the only travelers who use Bifrost. Light elves from Alfheim cross regularly to conduct business in other realms, their own luminous nature, creating beautiful interference patterns with the bridge's existing colors. Valkyries pass on their way to and from battlefields in Midgard, their wings creating wind currents that help stabilize the bridge during periods of heavy use. Occasionally you might observe more unusual travelers, messengers carrying important communications between worlds, scholars seeking knowledge that can only be found in distant realms, or diplomatic envoys working to maintain the delicate relationships that keep the 9 worlds functioning as a unified system. Each type of traveler interacts with the bridge slightly differently, their passage creating distinctive patterns in the rainbow light that help Heimdall maintain his comprehensive awareness of interworld activities. The most fascinating aspect of Bifrost's operation is how it adapts to different types of travelers and their specific needs. When gods cross the bridge, the rainbow bands strengthen and brighten, providing the kind of stable, dignified passage appropriate for beings of their stature. When light elves travel, the bridge becomes more translucent and ethereal, matching their delicate nature while still providing secure footing. For mortal heroes who occasionally earn the privilege of crossing between worlds, the bridge adjusts its solidity and creates subtle guide rails of condensed light that help prevent missteps that could prove catastrophic for beings not naturally adapted to cosmic travel. The bridge seems to understand intuitively what each traveler needs and provides exactly the right level of support and protection. The connection between Bifrost and Yggdrasil also creates some unexpected benefits for the tree itself. The constant flow of different types of beings across the Rainbow Bridge brings a steady stream of new experiences and perspectives that enrich the tree's consciousness. Each traveler leaves traces of their thoughts, emotions, and memories in the bridge's structure, and these traces gradually flow into the supporting branch and from there into the tree's broader awareness. As a result, Yggdrasil has developed a kind of cosmopolitan wisdom that comes from indirect exposure to the lives and perspectives of countless different beings. The tree understands not just the large-scale patterns that govern cosmic existence, but also the intimate details of individual experience, the hopes and fears, dreams and disappointments, moments of joy and periods of sorrow that make up the daily reality of conscious life. Standing at the junction where Bifrost meets Yggdrasil, you can sense this flow of experience moving through the tree's structure, like sap carrying nutrients to every part of a living system. It's a reminder that wisdom isn't just accumulated knowledge, but also deep empathy, the ability to understand and care about experiences very different from your own. As evening approaches and the traffic across Bifrost begins to diminish, the Rainbow Bridge settles into its nighttime rhythm. The colors become softer and more subtle, creating a gentle glow that provides just enough light for essential travel, while allowing the cosmic atmosphere to settle into peaceful rest. Heimdall adjusts his vigilance to match the quieter pace, maintaining his watch, but allowing his senses to relax into the contemplative awareness that comes with darkness. But even as Bifrost glows gently in the cosmic evening, its light illuminating the massive branch that supports it and casting rainbow reflections through the nearby foliage, you become aware that the bridge is just one element in something even more remarkable. The branch that anchors Bifrost is itself part of a vast network of limbs and boughs that support not just bridges, but entire worlds nestled securely in the embrace of the cosmic tree. Looking up from the Rainbow Bridge's anchor point, you begin to notice something extraordinary about Yggdrasil's structure that you might have missed during your earlier explorations. This isn't just a tree that happens to be very large. No, this is a tree whose branches have been carefully cultivated over eons to serve as the foundation for entire worlds, each one nestled securely in the fork between massive limbs like cosmic birds' nests built by some unimaginably patient gardener. The concept might seem strange at first. How can entire worlds rest in the branches of a tree? But when you think about it more carefully, it makes perfect sense. Trees in your own world support countless smaller ecosystems in their branches. Birds build nests, squirrels make homes, insects create colonies, and each level of the canopy hosts different communities of creatures adapted to life at that particular height and light level. Yggdrasil works the same way, except instead of hosting birds and squirrels, it provides stable platforms for entire realms of existence. Each world occupies a carefully chosen position in the tree's structure, placed where the combination of light, cosmic energy, and structural support creates exactly the right conditions for that particular type of reality to flourish. Asgard, the realm of the gods, rests in the highest reaches of the tree, where the branches are strongest and the view is clearest. From this elevated position, the gods can easily observe everything happening in the other worlds below, while the tree's natural height provides both security and the kind of inspiring vistas that help maintain the broad perspective necessary for wise governance. The placement of Asgard isn't arbitrary. Like a penthouse apartment in a cosmic skyscraper, this position offers maximum access to light and energy, while requiring the kind of structural support that only Yggdrasil's most mature and strongest branches can provide. The god's realm doesn't just sit passively in its tree branch foundation. It has grown together with the supporting wood over countless ages, creating a seamless integration between natural tree structure and divine architecture. If you could somehow climb high enough to observe Asgard from a distance, you'd see how the realm seems to flow naturally from the tree's branches, as if the gods' palaces and meeting halls had grown directly from the living wood, rather than being constructed as separate buildings. The The golden roofs catch and reflect the light that filters down from even higher cosmic sources, creating a gentle glow that nourishes the tree's uppermost leaves. Midgard, the world of humans, occupies a middle position in the tree's structure, nestled in the comfortable space where the trunk begins to branch out into its major limbs. This central location reflects humanity's role as a bridge between the divine and the earthly, positioned where they can receive influences from both the higher realms of the gods and the deeper, more primal energies that flow up from the tree's roots. The human world's placement also provides the perfect balance of stability and flexibility that mortal beings seem to require. Too high in the tree, and the constant proximity to divine energy might overwhelm human consciousness. Too low, and the primal forces from the depths might prove too intense for creatures who need to balance wisdom and instinct, planning and spontaneity, individual desires and community needs. From Midgard's position, humans can look up through the tree's canopy and catch occasional glimpses of the higher worlds, inspiring the dreams and aspirations that drive human creativity and progress. They can also look down through the branches toward the deeper realms, maintaining connection with the fundamental forces that keep life vibrant and strong. Alfheim, the realm of the Light Elves, occupies a position slightly above Midgard, but somewhat to the side, where a particularly graceful branch creates a platform bathed in the kind of gentle, consistent illumination that Light Elves find most comfortable. The elves, being creatures of subtlety and refinement, require steady conditions rather than dramatic extremes, and their branch provides exactly the kind of stable, peaceful environment where their delicate arts and crafts can flourish. The Light Elves' world appears almost transparent when viewed from a distance, as if it were made from crystallized sunbeams and morning mist. Their buildings and gardens seem to shimmer in and out of visibility, sometimes solid and substantial, other times appearing as translucent as soap bubbles floating on a gentle breeze. This ethereal quality comes partly from the elves' own nature, and partly from their world's position in a section of the tree where cosmic light flows in particularly pure and concentrated streams. Jotunheim, the land of the frost giants, spreads across several massive branches on the tree's northern side, where the cosmic winds blow coldest, and the light arrives filtered through layers of crystalline ice that form naturally in the upper atmosphere. The giants, being large and sturdy beings who prefer dramatic landscapes and challenging conditions, have shaped their realm into a place of magnificent ice palaces and snow-covered mountains that would take your breath away with their austere beauty. The frost giants' branches are among the thickest and most powerful in all of Yggdrasil, capable of supporting not just the weight of their massive inhabitants, but also the enormous ice formations and stone structures that the giants have built over countless centuries. These branches creak and groan occasionally under their impressive load, creating deep, resonant sounds that travel through the tree's structure like whale songs echoing through ocean depths. Vanaheim, home of the Vanir gods, occupies a cluster of branches that interweave so complexly, it's sometimes difficult to tell where one branch ends and another begins. This reflects the Vanir's deep understanding of interconnection and natural cycles, their realm growing into the tree's structure in ways that enhance both the world and its supporting branches. The Vanir have always been skilled at working with natural systems rather than imposing artificial structures upon them. From Vanaheim flows some of the most potent magic in all the 9 worlds, not the dramatic sorcery of explosive spells and flashy transformations, but the deeper magic that governs growth and decay, fertility and harvest, the slow but irresistible forces that turn seeds into forests and rivers into canyons. This magic seeps into the tree's wood through the direct connection between the Vanir realm and its supporting branches, strengthening Yggdrasil's entire structure. Svartalfheim, the world of the dark elves or dwarves, exists in a fascinating position that's technically within the tree's structure, but extends down into the spaces between major roots. The dwarves, being master craftspeople who prefer working with metals and stones, have built their realm in the areas where Yggdrasil's roots create natural caves and caverns, expanded and improved through centuries of careful engineering. The dwarves' world connects to the tree's main structure through a network of tunnels and galleries carved directly into the living wood of the major roots. These passages allow the flow of materials and energy between Svartalfheim and the other worlds, while also providing the dwarves with access to the unique magical properties that develop where Yggdrasil's root system meets different geological formations. Muspelheim, the realm of fire, occupies perhaps the most challenging position in Yggdrasil's structure, a set of branches that extend toward the cosmic south, where they're constantly bathed in intense heat and light from distant stellar sources. The fire giants who inhabit this realm have adapted to conditions that would be completely unbearable for most other beings, building their world from materials that actually grow stronger and more beautiful when exposed to extreme temperatures. The branches supporting Muspelheim show fascinating adaptations to their fiery burden. Instead of being damaged by the constant heat, they've developed bark with crystalline formations that channel and focus thermal energy, creating a circulation system that helps distribute warmth throughout the entire tree. During the coldest cosmic seasons, all the worlds benefit from the steady flow of heat generated by Muspelheim's eternal flames. Niflheim, the primordial realm of ice and mist, spreads through the tree's lower branches, where cosmic cold collects in pools of crystalline air and eternal frost. This ancient world predates most of the others, its icy foundations providing some of the original material from which Yggdrasil itself first grew. The relationship between Niflheim and the tree runs so deep that it's sometimes difficult to determine where the realm ends and the tree's natural structure begins. The mists of Niflheim flow constantly through Yggdrasil's branch system, providing humidity and atmospheric balance that helps maintain optimal conditions for all the other worlds. Without this steady circulation of primordial moisture, the tree's leaves would dry out and its wood would become brittle, unable to support the complex ecosystem of interconnected realms. Finally, Helheim, the realm of the dead, occupies a unique position that's both part of the tree and separate from it. This world exists in the spaces between the major roots, accessible through passages that connect to the main tree structure, but maintaining its own distinct identity and natural laws. Hel, the goddess who rules this realm, has created a place that serves as a peaceful resting ground for those who have completed their journeys in other worlds. The positioning of all 9 worlds within Yggdrasil's structure isn't random or accidental. Each realm occupies exactly the right location to maintain the cosmic balance that keeps all of existence stable and healthy. The interactions between different worlds, the flow of energy, information, and beings moving from one realm to another, create a complex but harmonious system that operates with the same natural efficiency as the circulation of nutrients through any living tree. Standing in the middle reaches of Yggdrasil, perhaps on a sturdy branch that offers a clear view of multiple worlds, you begin to appreciate the incredible engineering accomplishment that this arrangement represents. It's not just that the tree is large enough to support 9 worlds, it's that the entire system has been designed to allow those worlds to interact and influence each other in ways that strengthen the whole structure. The cosmic winds that blow between the branches carry seeds, spores, and fragments of experience from one world to another, cross-pollinating ideas and possibilities across the barriers that might otherwise keep different realms completely isolated. A thought that originates in Asgard might drift down to inspire a human inventor in Midgard. A song created by the Light Elves might find its way to Vanaheim, where it helps the crops grow more abundantly. As evening settles across the 9 worlds, each realm begins to glow with its own characteristic light. Asgard sparkles with golden radiance, while Alfheim shimmers with silver, Muspelheim burns with steady red flames, and Niflheim glows with pale blue ice light. The combined illumination creates an aurora effect that flows through Yggdrasil's branches, reminding anyone who observes it that diversity and unity can exist together in perfect harmony. But even as you marvel at the complexity and beauty of the 9 worlds resting securely in Yggdrasil's embrace, you might notice movement at the edges of your vision. Not all the tree's neighbors are as securely nested as the established realms. Some beings prefer to maintain their distance, watching from positions that allow them to observe without being fully integrated into the cosmic system. These edge-dwelling giants are different from their cousins who live in the established realm of Jotunheim proper. While the Jotunheim giants have built ice palaces and snow cities within their designated branches of the world tree, these border giants prefer a more nomadic existence, moving freely through the cosmic wilderness that surrounds Yggdrasil like an ocean surrounds an island. Picture them for a moment, beings tall as mountains, with skin that gleams like polished ice and eyes that reflect the light of distant stars. They move with the patient, measured pace of creatures who think in terms of geological time, for whom a century passes like a season and a millennium feels like a comfortable year. Their hair flows like winter wind, sometimes appearing solid as icicles, other times seeming to merge with the cosmic storms that rage in the spaces between worlds. While the 9 worlds rest securely within Yggdrasil's branches, creating a harmonious community of interconnected realms, not everyone in the cosmic neighborhood feels entirely comfortable with such close integration. At the very edges of the great tree's influence, where its branches thin out and the cosmic winds blow cold and fierce, you'll find the Watchers, frost giants who have chosen to live on the borderlands, keeping one foot in the organized world and one foot in the wild spaces that lie beyond. These watching giants have names that sound like avalanches or the cracking of ancient glaciers. Thrymr, Utgard Loki, Angerboda, and dozens of others whose names are whispered only when the cosmic winds blow in particular directions. They're not enemies of the world tree or its inhabitants, exactly, but neither are they entirely friends. Instead, they represent something more complex, the eternal tension between order and chaos, between the settled and the wild, between the known and the unknown. Their watching posts are marvels of frost giant engineering, though they'd never call them that themselves. These structures seem to grow naturally from the ice and stone of the cosmic periphery, but closer examination reveals the subtle shaping and careful positioning that marks them as deliberate constructions. They're built to be both comfortable shelters and perfect observation platforms, allowing their giant inhabitants to monitor everything that happens in and around Yggdrasil while remaining unnoticed themselves. From these distant vantage points, the frost giants can see patterns that escape the attention of those living within the world tree system. They observe the slow cycles of cosmic weather, the gradual changes in the light that flows between different realms, the subtle shifts in Yggdrasil's growth patterns that might indicate important changes developing over centuries or millennia. Their perspective gives them a kind of wisdom that complements but differs from the knowledge available to those who live closer to the tree's heart. What exactly are they watching for? The answer varies from giant to giant, but generally, they serve as early warning systems for cosmic disturbances that might threaten the stability of the entire nine-world system. Their position on the edges allows them to detect approaching problems, cosmic storms, dimensional instabilities, invasions from distant realities, long before such threats could be noticed by inhabitants of the more central realms. But their role involves more than simple observation. These edge giants also serve as a kind of cosmic immune system, intercepting and dealing with minor threats before they can reach Yggdrasil proper. A small reality distortion that might cause serious problems if it reached one of the nine worlds can often be neutralized by a frost giant who catches it early and knows exactly how to disperse its energy harmlessly into the cosmic background. Their methods for handling such situations are as varied as the giants themselves, but they generally favor approaches that work with natural forces rather than against them. A giant might redirect a cosmic storm by creating precisely positioned ice formations that channel its energy into harmless patterns. Another might neutralize a dimensional weakness by singing in frequencies that restore the proper vibrations to unstable space. The frost giant's relationship with the inhabitants of Yggdrasil is complex and often misunderstood by those who prefer simple categories of friend and enemy. The giants maintain diplomatic relations with the gods, but these relationships are conducted with the formal courtesy of neighbors who respect each other's independence rather than the casual intimacy of close friends. Occasionally, representatives from Asgard make the long journey to the Edge territories to consult with the watching giants about cosmic conditions or to seek their assistance with particularly challenging problems. These diplomatic missions unfold with elaborate protocol designed to acknowledge both the giants' wisdom and their preference for maintaining their independence from the central power structures. The giants, in turn, sometimes send their own envoys to visit the nine worlds, particularly when they've observed developments that require coordination between the Edge Watchers and the Tree Dwellers. These giant ambassadors are always received with great honor, though their visits tend to create a certain amount of nervous excitement among beings who aren't accustomed to hosting guests who can literally look over the tops of their tallest buildings. One of the most fascinating aspects of the frost giants' edge communities is how they've adapted to living in the cosmic wilderness without losing connection to civilization entirely. Their settlements are marvels of environmental integration, designed to work with the harsh conditions of the outer regions rather than fighting against them. The giants have also developed sophisticated systems for communication across the vast distances that separate their scattered outposts. They use a combination of methods: sonic signals that travel through the cosmic medium, light patterns created by carefully positioned ice formations, and even messages carried by the cosmic winds themselves, encoded in ways that only other giants can interpret. Giant dwellings often appear to be natural formations, ice caves, crystalline formations, or wind-carved stone monuments, until you notice the subtle modifications that make them comfortable for intelligent habitation. Windows positioned to catch optimal light, channels carved to direct wind flow for heating and ventilation, floors polished smooth for comfort while retaining enough texture to prevent slipping on ice. Much of their time is devoted to what might be called cosmic meteorology, tracking the movements of stellar winds, monitoring the health of nearby dimensional barriers, observing the flow patterns of various energies through the cosmic medium. This work requires both scientific precision and intuitive understanding, combining careful measurement with the kind of wisdom that comes only from centuries of patient observation. These communication networks allow the edge giants to coordinate their activities and share information about cosmic conditions across enormous distances. When one giant observes something significant in their sector, word can travel to all the other watchers within a surprisingly short time, enabling rapid response to developing situations. The daily routine of an edge giant involves a careful balance of vigilance and patience that might seem monotonous to beings with shorter lifespans, but which the giants find deeply satisfying. They spend their days in contemplative observation, watching the slow dance of cosmic forces with the same attention that a master craftsperson might give to a delicate piece of work. Giant craftswork tends toward the monumental and the eternal. They carve sculptures from cosmic ice that will last for millions of years, design architectural elements that will continue functioning long after their creators have moved on to other projects, and create technological systems that maintain themselves through automatic processes calibrated to cosmic timescales. But the giants' days aren't entirely devoted to work. They also pursue various forms of art and entertainment adapted to their unique circumstances. Giant poetry often consists of compositions that take decades to recite completely, with verses that capture the subtle changes in cosmic weather patterns or the slow evolution of distant star formations. Their music resonates at frequencies that can be heard across vast distances, creating symphonies that span multiple star systems and compositions that use the acoustic properties of cosmic space itself as an instrument. When several giants coordinate their musical efforts, they can create harmonic patterns that influence local weather and even help stabilize dimensional boundaries. Some scholars suggest that this relationship represents an early form of cosmic symbiosis, with the giants serving as Yggdrasil's extended sensory system, while the tree provides them with a sense of purpose and connection to the larger community of intelligent beings. Whether this arrangement developed naturally or was deliberately designed by some ancient cosmic intelligence remains a matter of speculation among those who study such things. As you imagine yourself standing at one of these edge outposts, looking back toward Yggdrasil across the cosmic distances, you begin to appreciate the unique perspective that the watching giants maintain. From their position, the world tree appears as a single bright point in an ocean of darkness, beautiful and fragile, requiring constant protection from the wild forces that swirl through the cosmic deep. The relationship between the edge giants and Yggdrasil itself is perhaps the most intriguing aspect of their situation. While they choose to live outside the world tree's direct influence, they remain connected to it through subtle but important bonds that benefit both parties. The giant's vigilance helps protect Yggdrasil from external threats, while the tree's stable presence provides a fixed reference point that helps the giants maintain their orientation in the vast cosmic wilderness. And perhaps most remarkably, they can see something that escapes the notice of most tree dwellers: the way Yggdrasil's leaves shimmer and dance with their own inner light, creating patterns of communication that carry messages between the worlds nestled in its branches and beyond, to destinations that even the giants can only guess at. The view also reveals something that inhabitants of the Nine Worlds rarely consider. Yggdrasil, despite its enormous size and cosmic importance, is not the only structure in existence. Far beyond the giants' watching posts, barely visible even to their enhanced senses, other lights glimmer in the cosmic distance, hints of other world systems, other experiments in organized existence, other attempts to create islands of meaning in the vast sea of possibility. But as impressive as the distant perspective might be, it's the view inward that often proves most captivating to the watching giants. From their edge positions, they can observe Yggdrasil's constant subtle changes, the way its leaves shift color with cosmic seasons, how its branches adjust their positions in response to gravitational changes, the gentle pulsing of energy that flows through its structure like a slow, eternal heartbeat. As our gentle journey through the mysteries of Yggdrasil draws toward its close, your attention turns upward to one final wonder that crowns all the others: the vast canopy of leaves that rustles high above every world, every well, every creature, and every watching giant. These aren't ordinary leaves, though they might appear so at first glance to anyone accustomed to the trees of mortal realms. No, these are something far more remarkable: the cosmic calendar of existence itself, written in chlorophyll and starlight. Each leaf on Yggdrasil contains within its delicate structure a perfect record of cosmic time, holding memories of every season that has passed since the world tree first began to grow. If you could somehow examine one of these leaves closely, perhaps one that has drifted down from the highest branches to rest on a lower limb where smaller beings might reach it, you would discover that it's not simply green or gold or brown. but contains layers of color that shift and change depending on the light and the observer's perspective. The shimmering quality that gives these leaves their otherworldly beauty comes from their unique ability to reflect not just the light that falls on them in the present moment, but also echoes of light from past and future seasons. A leaf might gleam with the bright green of an eternal spring, while simultaneously showing hints of autumn gold and winter silver, all the colors blending together in patterns too complex for ordinary eyes to fully comprehend. But the most remarkable thing about Yggdrasil's leaves isn't their appearance, it's the sounds they make. When the cosmic winds blow through the world tree's branches, the leaves don't simply rustle like normal foliage. Instead, they whisper secrets about the nature of time itself, sharing stories of seasons that stretch across eons and cycles that govern the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Listen carefully to their whispered conversations, and you might hear discussions of summers that lasted for centuries, winters that brought not just snow and ice, but fundamental changes in the laws of physics, springs that saw the birth of new types of consciousness, and autumns that witnessed the graceful conclusion of cosmic experiments that had been running since the universe was young. The leaves understand something that most inhabitants of the 9 worlds rarely consider. Time itself has seasons, just like weather or plant growth. There are periods when change comes easily and new possibilities emerge almost effortlessly, like cosmic springtime when the universe feels young and full of potential. There are also periods of cosmic summer, when established patterns reach their full development and everything seems stable and permanent. Cosmic autumn brings a different kind of energy, a time for harvesting the lessons learned during periods of growth and change, for gathering wisdom from completed cycles, and for preparing for the deep rest that allows renewal. And cosmic winter provides the necessary dormancy that lets exhausted systems restore themselves, clear away accumulated complications, and prepare for the fresh start that always follows the deepest rest. The leaves' whispered conversations reveal that these cosmic seasons don't follow any simple, predictable schedule. Unlike the regular seasons that govern weather in individual worlds, cosmic seasons can last for millennia or change unexpectedly in response to events that most beings never notice. The leaves serve as both historians and prophets, remembering past seasonal changes while sensing the approach of new ones. Different sections of Yggdrasil's canopy respond to different aspects of cosmic seasonality. The leaves near Asgard shimmer with information about seasons of divine activity, periods when the gods are particularly active in shaping cosmic events, and quieter times when they step back to observe the results of their earlier interventions. These leaves often show golden highlights that indicate times of peak divine creativity. The foliage surrounding Midgard reflects the seasonal patterns of mortal civilizations, the rise and fall of cultures, the flowering of artistic and intellectual movements, the long periods of gradual development punctuated by brief moments of revolutionary change. These leaves display an ever-changing palette of colors that mirrors the rapid shifts in human consciousness and social organization. Near the branches that support the Light Elves' realm, the leaves whisper about seasons of beauty and craft, times when artistic inspiration flows particularly freely through the cosmos, and other periods when beings focus more on practical matters and the maintenance of existing beauty, rather than the creation of new forms. These leaves often appear translucent, as if made from crystallized music or solid moonbeams. The leaves around Jotunheim's branches carry information about geological and climatic seasons that operate on scales vast enough to match the frost giant's perspective. They speak of ice ages that last for millions of years, volcanic epochs that reshape entire regions of cosmic space, and periods of crystal formation that create new types of matter with previously unknown properties. Each realm's section of the canopy contributes its own unique perspective to the overall symphony of whispered wisdom. But the leaves don't simply report on their local conditions. They also communicate with each other, sharing information across vast distances through a network of subtle chemical signals, electromagnetic fluctuations, and quantum entanglements that connect every leaf to every other leaf throughout the entire tree. This communication network allows Yggdrasil's foliage to function as a single, enormous sensing system that can detect seasonal changes developing anywhere in the cosmic environment. When leaves in one section begin to register the approach of a new cosmic season, they pass this information through the network, allowing the entire tree to begin preparing for the coming changes. The preparation process is subtle but profound. Different types of leaves adjust their chemical composition to better capture or reflect the kinds of energy associated with the approaching season. The tree's branches shift position slightly to optimize the flow of nutrients and information. Even the roots deep below make adjustments, changing how they interact with the sacred wells to ensure that the tree receives the right balance of fate, wisdom, and life energy for the cosmic season ahead. But perhaps the most important function of the leaves' seasonal whispers is the comfort they provide to all the beings who live within Yggdrasil's embrace. Change can be frightening, especially changes so vast and slow that individual lives span only tiny fractions of complete cycles. The leaves' gentle reminders that all change follows patterns, that every ending leads to a new beginning, help ease the anxiety that might otherwise overwhelm beings facing the uncertainties of cosmic transformation. When cosmic winter approaches, and some inhabitants of the nine worlds begin to worry that the period of cold and dormancy might last forever, the leaves whisper reassurances drawn from their memories of countless previous cycles. They remind listeners that winter's purpose is always restoration, never destruction, and that the depth of winter's rest directly corresponds to the vigor of the spring that will inevitably follow. Similarly, when cosmic spring arrives and brings changes so rapid and dramatic that some beings feel overwhelmed by new possibilities, the leaves offer gentle guidance about pacing and patience. They share wisdom about how to nurture new growth without exhausting oneself, how to embrace change without losing connection to valuable traditions, how to remain open to possibilities without becoming scattered and unfocused. The leaves also serve as mediators between different timescales, helping beings who think in terms of years or decades maintain perspective when dealing with changes that unfold over centuries or millennia. They translate cosmic seasonal patterns into terms that shorter-lived beings can understand, offering practical advice about how to align individual choices with larger cosmic rhythms. As you imagine yourself resting beneath Yggdrasil's vast canopy, listening to the gentle symphony of whispered wisdom floating down from countless leaves, you begin to understand that you're experiencing something that very few beings ever encounter directly. Most inhabitants of the nine worlds hear only fragments of the leaves' conversations, catching occasional whispered words when the wind blows just right, or when they're in particularly quiet, contemplative states of mind. But tonight, in this peaceful moment between day and night, between one breath and the next, between the ending of one story and the beginning of whatever comes next, the leaves seem willing to share their deepest secrets with anyone patient enough to listen carefully. They speak of seasons within seasons, cycles within cycles, and the great spiral of time that carries everything forward while somehow always bringing it back to familiar patterns. They whisper about the season that's approaching now, a time of gentle transition, when the boundaries between waking and sleeping, between myth and reality, between the cosmic and the personal, become soft and permeable. It's a season for rest and dreams, for allowing the day's accumulated worries to settle like autumn leaves falling to forest floors, for trusting in the deep rhythms that keep everything in motion, even when conscious effort relaxes. The leaves' final whispers, as the cosmic winds begin to settle into their nighttime patterns, carry a message of profound reassurance. They remind you that you are part of something much larger and more beautiful than any individual story, any single life, any particular moment of joy or sorrow. You are part of the great seasonal dance of existence itself, connected to every other being through threads as delicate and strong as the veins that carry life through each shimmering leaf. And as their whispers fade into the gentle background hum of cosmic night, mixing with the distant sounds of Ratatoska settling into his hollow, the eagle folding his wings, the Norns continuing their quiet weaving, and Nidhogg's rhythmic work in the depths below, you realize that you've been given a gift that will stay with you long after this particular journey ends. You've learned that everything is connected, that every ending is also a beginning, that the universe itself is far more gentle and patient than most stories suggest. You've discovered that wisdom flows like water through hidden channels, that even destruction serves renewal, that the cosmic forces that seem so vast and impersonal are actually tended by countless beings who care deeply about maintaining the delicate balance that allows life and consciousness to flourish. And perhaps most importantly, you've experienced the truth that the leaves whisper most often in their seasonal conversations, that there is always enough time for what matters most, that rest and renewal are not luxuries but necessities, and that the greatest adventures often happen in the quietest moments, when we're wise enough to listen to the ancient stories that the world is always telling, if we have ears to hear. Sleep well, friends, and may your dreams be filled with the gentle rustling of cosmic leaves, sharing their timeless wisdom about the seasons of existence and the eternal cycle of rest and renewal that keeps the universe itself healthy and strong. The world tree will be here when you wake, continuing its patient work of holding everything together, one quiet moment at a time.